Hi, everybody, and welcome to MFSN Fantasy Baseball. We'll talk closers, we'll talk WBC, we'll talk spring training, we'll talk everybody. I'm here with the best host in the business, Flat to the Bone, Casey
Good to see you, Ross. How are you, my friend?
You know, let me finish. Let me do the intro. Flat to the Bone. See, I
Glad to
pause.
know.
Flat to the Bone, Casey Shinefold. You see how I do it?
That's me. That's better. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm a professional. So I'm excited. Tonight's the night, the final game of the WBC World Baseball Classic. We got a doozy. Team USA, Merrill Kelly. Where do you go to college? I forgot. A school called Arizona State.
University of Arizona
No,
Wildcats.
Arizona State versus Team Japan, who looks very tough. Team Japan is actually the underdog tonight, I guess because it's in the United States. I don't know why Japan is the underdog tonight, in all seriousness. I mean, I know the USA has a great lineup, but Japan's pitching, I mean, they're so good, Casey.
They were.
Cy Young winner is even starting tonight.
Yeah, but he said he's available out of the bullpen, Ohtani. But, you know, it was interesting because you check in the seventh inning last night and Mexico's up 3-0. You come back 2 minutes later, it's 3-3. And then at the end, you just see him pull it out in the bottom of the ninth inning. It was pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, and that player, the Red Sox got, I mean, we were talking like, okay, this guy, who knows if he's going to be good. You know, he doesn't have much power. He can't steal bases. You and I are both
some people have made themselves pretty fantasy relevant just in the World Baseball Classic. It's been fun to watch. So
it has, and some people got hurt during the World Baseball Classic also. Somebody on your team.
Yeah, that leads us into our closer discussion. Obviously, man, trying to figure out closers in the preseason is pretty much like playing the lottery. There's a handful. I don't know how many you think. I have maybe 6 who I would rank or 7 who I would rank as I have a high amount of trust that they're even going to be the closer for their team 3 months in. But God, it's always tough. And so, you know, like let's talk about it. What do you think? What are your opinions?
I want to tell you the difference between the closer position from, let's say, 3 years ago to now. 3 years ago, each team had one guy that would close the game. True or false?
3 to 4, yeah. Tampa Bay kind of changed everybody's
thinking. I'm saying 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I can name every closer on every team and tell you who's going to get the ball on the lead when they're under 3 runs in the ninth inning. Now, there's only like 2 or 3 guys that I would say, yes, this guy's for sure coming in the ninth inning. It's kind of spread out now, Casey, and that kind of opens up the relief position. So you don't have to take that number 1 relief pitcher anymore. You can kind of wait, like I do, and take that relief pitcher because it's kind of a shared position now. What do you think?
In a lot of ways, yeah. Now all of a sudden they've kind of gone to this opinion of like their best closer is going to come in, their best relief pitcher is going to come in whenever the need is the most, and that could be in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning, and it makes predicting closing a lot more tricky. You know, it used to be you could draft 15 closers and know for certain that they're going to be the closer in July and August and September. Now, you said 3. I think there's 6 or 7.
Well, then we'll go through it. I'm curious to see it because I'll counter every time you say somebody. Want to say nope? Sewald in Seattle? Nope. This is a guy named Munoz that's going to have 25 Cs this year.
No, I have Sewald ranked all the way down at 14.
I'm giving an example. I get it. I'm getting it. But I'm just saying there's okay, let's say I want to hear your 6 that you think be getting the ball in the ninth inning with nobody else to worry about behind them. So I want to hear it.
I think Emmanuel Clase is
Clase's my number 1 now.
Yeah, now that Diaz is hurt, and now for the season, Diaz was my number 1 and was a keeper in our keeper league, but not anymore. I think Clase is 1. I think Devin Williams is 2. I think Hader's due for a bounce back, so I still rank him in the top 5. I know he struggled last year.
Yeah, a Hader I'm worried about. He has to prove me wrong. I would stay away. That second half case he had last year.
It was brutal. Yeah, it was brutal.
I think I dropped him just in spite. I think I'm so angry I dropped him in our league because I just, you know what, I'm not going to keep him. You know, I have other guys I'd rather play. And he couldn't even get an out. It was
right. I think Jordan Romano is going to get
I
the
like
saves in
Romano.
Toronto.
Romano's on my list.
I think Felix Bautista in Baltimore is pretty underrated. If you look at his numbers from last year, they're pretty sick. I
Great
think
second half. A great second half pitcher. His first half wasn't that good.
No, you are absolutely right on that one.
But you know what? He's on my list to look out for. He could be a legitimate closer. He has to prove himself to me this year.
I like AJ Minter, but I think Raisel Iglesias is going to be the closer in Atlanta this whole year. As long
How
as
about Will Smith? You threw him out?
Right. They're two lefties. And I think lefties end up being the matchup specialist more so than the closer. And so when
I like Iglesias too. I love his music, as you know.
It is catchy.
He was a Cincinnati Red, then he went to the Angels, and now he's in Atlanta. So he's back in the National League. This guy has great stuff. With him, it's just confidence, and they start hitting him.
Yep,
it's going to be a long season for him. It's not good.
I mean, I think Ryan Presley in Houston is going to be the closer all year long. He's not.
Hold on that. There's a guy named Montero. This guy goes
who
deep.
has.
I mean, this guy is good.
He throws wicked stuff, but Montero is not a good control pitcher, and you can't have somebody in the ninth inning who's going to walk two guys. Like, I remember being a Yankees fan when Rivera first retired. They brought in, and when Rivera got hurt for that year, he blew out his ACL. David Robertson, who, by the way, is now relevant again with Edwin Diaz getting hurt. But David Robertson came in and closed, and he was famous for walking two guys in the ninth inning every time. But then he would 90% of the time managed to use that devastating curveball to get a strikeout, but it was never a comfortable save. And his whip was like 1.4, which is
that's a great
obviously terrible for a closer.
Now you want to draft these relievers that don't have somebody breathing down their neck. Like a good example is the reliever for Colorado, Bard. There's no one else on that team that's going to be taking.
I know, but he is. Have you watched him pitch at all in the World Baseball Classic? Like, that's one of those ones where I think his stock went down because of how bad his control was in that. But you're right. He's going to have the job, but do you want a guy with poor control that pitches in Colorado?
Listen, I love the confidence, and let's talk about teams like Seattle, the Angels, even the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers have Evan Phillips as their closer, I think. We think. They haven't announced anything.
Yeah, I love the kid, but
Phillips
do you trust him?
A lot of strikeouts, great control. I don't see the Dodgers keeping him as their closer. I see them bringing somebody in, maybe before the trade deadline to get some saves. I don't know.
Well, see, and that's where I think the value is when you're looking for value picks. It's in Aroldis Chapman, who will probably be dealt at the trade deadline. David Bednar for Pittsburgh is awesome, but there's a 90% chance he's probably traded by July. And the question is,
a good thing.
Right. It could also be a very bad thing. I have him listed as a bust because he's going to be a closer for the first 3 months of the season. You're going to rely on him. But let's say he gets traded to Cleveland because Cleveland's in the hunt, or one of these other ones where there's a bona fide closer, and all of a sudden he's a setup guy. And so it becomes really important to pay attention to whether your league also has holds as a category, because there are some category leagues.
I'm in some leagues with holds and categories, and that drives me crazy too, because players, there's a lot of setup guys that get holds, and it's a great category, but it's like you really got to strategize like every day on it. I mean, it's a tough category to stand up. I've done it.
One of the guys I can't make a firm decision on, and you owned him last year, so and you're not keeping him obviously, but that's Clay Holmes. This guy, I mean, Jonathan Loaisiga, Michael King, these aren't guys who really scare you as coming in to take over the ninth inning. And Clay Holmes, for the first 4 months of the season, was about as dominant of a closer as you've seen in.
It was lights out.
He was better than Edwin Diaz, I think, in the first half of the season in a lot of ways.
Lights out. He was unhittable. and then all of a sudden
he had a back issue, and suddenly he
broke his back, Casey.
And so my question to you is, where do you have him ranked? Is he in that top 10? Is he around the 10th?
Clay Holmes is the guy that I feel is going to have somebody breathing out his neck. You just named two. You mentioned King. You mentioned
Loaisiga.
I mean, you mentioned a couple guys. There's a couple other guys too. I'm not the Yankee expert. You are, but
there's Wandy Peralta.
Somebody that, if you get him late, I would pick him up. But I don't see him closing at the end of the season or even the second half of the season. That's my prediction. I could be wrong, but he's the guy that as soon as he blows some saves, he's going to blow his job. I mean, that's what's going to happen with Clay Holmes.
Yeah, especially playing in the AL East and for the Yankees.
Especially playing in New York.
Only Mariano Rivera is the last closer to have a long leash. You don't in New York. You don't have that time. So who do you think?
Greatest closer in history. I mean, that's what you're talking about, Rivera. Come on.
Between, I've read some articles from some Mets reporters that say Adam Ottavino is just as likely to get saves as David Robertson. Robertson's the one with the history of closing for the Yankees, for the Phillies, for was it the Cubs or the White Sox? The White Sox, I think. But they're not saying he's the closer to be or anointed. Who would you even touch that bullpen?
I would. I think these guys are people that you can get late in the draft. As soon as I heard Diaz went down, I went on waiver wire and picked up as many Robinson chips I could.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in like 7, 8 leagues, and I think I got him almost every league. I believe he'll be the closer, but I've been saying this all along to start the show. They're going to 90% of the teams are going to do a shared situation with saves. It's not the one guy anymore. I mean, it's not, they're not bringing in Rivera in every ninth inning when they're up by 2 or 3 runs. Those days are over.
I know, but
happens now is they're going to share that position, that closing position with two guys. I mean, look at Seattle's a great thing. Munoz has great stuff, and so does Seawald. These guys are going to switch back and forth. Each guy's going to have 20 to 25 saves.
And look,
mark my word right now in Seattle.
Who's the third reliever there? Is Diego Castillo, who was a closer in Tampa before, so even he has closing experience, and he's got kind of a Bugs Bunny changeup when it's working well for him. So you could see
look at the Phillies have 2 or 3 guys that can close.
Well, the Phillies, they're looking at Craig Kimbrell, I guess, gets the first crack, but Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, and Jose Alvarado, all 3 of them might have better stuff than Kimbrell at this point.
Soto's getting a lot of heat right now in fantasy leagues as their closer. He's having a good spring.
Yeah,
but I think that's a shared situation in Philadelphia, and I try to step away a little bit. But if I wait till the last few rounds to draft people, those are the places I want to go. I want to go to a team that's going to have 90 wins, not a team like Detroit, not a team like Oakland, not a team like Cincinnati, who may have a closer. But how many opportunities are these guys going to get in a year? I mean, how many wins do you think the Oakland A's are going to have?
How many wins?
60, 50?
65.
You're very generous. I mean, that roster.
I don't like to predict 100 loss teams, so I'm going to say they have 97 losses.
Wow, that's a bold prediction. I think they'll lose 100 games. I think Cincinnati is going to lose 100 games.
Well, let's go to Cincinnati then. Let's go with Edwin's brother. What's your view on Alexis Diaz as the closer?
Alexis Diaz, they announced that he's the closer. They said he's going to be the closer. He's being drafted in between the 10th and 13th round. Again, with Cincinnati, I'm a Reds fan. I can say this: they're not going to win many games as much as I want them to.
You can be on a bad team. A bad team. That means you're going to be in a lot of close games. So you could have a lot of save opportunities.
Casey, I hope you're right. Your words to God's ears. I mean, I don't. That's not going to happen in Cincinnati.
I'm excited. It's weird. The more I look at it, I'm actually a little bit excited about Cincinnati's offense. I know, there's
third Will Myers.
I think Will Myers is a late value pick, like a great one. Like,
okay, he is, but he's not going to win you any championships.
No, he's not. But I like Jonathan India, like the kid.
I
What's his
love
name?
Jonathan India.
Christian Encarnacion Strand. Is that his name? The third baseman, first baseman.
Yep.
He's going to come up. He's going to be exciting. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be great.
Okay,
but
let's move around a little bit.
Let's go back to closers. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, you bought about Diaz. You bought about Edwin's brother, and he was in tears when his brother went down.
Yeah, that was hard to watch.
They showed him, and he was like on the field, and his brother was in a wheelchair practically. He was in a wheelchair, and he knew something bad happened, and his brother was crying, and I would be crying too, because it was horrible.
So do you think it's a closer by committee in St. Louis where it's Ryan Helsley and Giovanni Gallegos? Or do you think Helsley's
job I think it's Helsley's job until he messes up. That's what they said at the beginning of spring training. Helsley has that job, but he has somebody breathing down his throat.
So do you, when you're looking at, I guess it depends on how many bench spots. Let's assume you're in a league with a healthy kind of bench. The league our MFSN league has a very shallow bench. I think it's 5 total bench players. But if you have 8 or 9 bench players, do you ever take a running back approach to closers where you get the handcuff? So for example,
I think that's a position where you do kind of stock up on them. Like example, I'm in LA. Phillips, who hasn't been announced as the closer here, but when he comes in, this guy is a great setup guy. He was a great setup guy last year. Even though if he comes in for 1 or 2 innings and strikes out 4, that's value. I mean, that's a guy. He'll have 60, 70 appearances this year. He'll burn the candle for the Dodgers. This guy doesn't need much rest, and if he's not the closer, they're not going to hold him away if it's a close game. They'll play him.
So for example, if let's say you get Camilo Doval in San Francisco, who is the bona fide, would you draft Taylor or Tyler Rogers as a handcuff for them?
I'm a Tyler Rogers guy. I just think his stats are really good, and I think he's very good in pressure situations. But that's a great example. Doval and Rogers will probably share the role. And if you do draft in a deep league, you might as well get both of them, because that way, San Francisco's not a good team this year anyway. They have barely any hitting, and their starting pitching is horrendous. They're not going to be that great. But meanwhile, if you can get there's 2 guys in Minnesota. There's Duran and is it Lopez?
There's Juan Duran and Jorge Lopez. Yeah.
Yeah, they got 2 closers there too. We talked about Seattle, Seawald, and also Munoz. Then you got like the Marlins. Who knows what they're going to do? We talked about Atlanta.
We haven't even touched on Tampa Bay's mess.
I personally think on Tampa Bay is I stay away. Because they change pitchers all the time. They're not stable. And so you don't know who's going to come in.
When it comes to drafting closers, let's say let's hypothetically standard 5x5 league.
5x5. Okay, so saves is a category.
Is a category, but it's only one category. And let's do redraft as opposed to keeper leagues. In what round do you start looking for closers?
So again, first 2 rounds, which Ross's rule, best player available. It's
regardless
not
of anything.
Right. It's not going to be a pitcher. Unfortunately, I wait kind of late to get pitchers. Well, depends who's out there, but the first 2 rounds, I take hitters. That's what I do. I'm sure you do the same.
Yes.
If there's somebody out there that I feel is going to have the job the whole time, that's on a good team, I will take them in the 8th or 9th round. But I'm not taking any closers in the 5th or 6th round. No way. Because as we know, half these closers that we think are going to be the closers are not going to be the closers by All-Star break. It's a whole new round of guys.
Yeah.
And it's the most unstudied position unless, again, I'll give you 5 of those guys you mentioned will keep their jobs, but I don't think we'll see the same.
I'm just saying those are the ones I would draft with confidence that they have at least a leash to keep that job.
I mean, we can go to every team. I mean, the Angels are not going to have a steady guy. The Padres have Hader. You like him? I don't. I think he'll lose his job by June or maybe May.
Yeah, but Suarez as the backup? I mean, do you believe in...
Who was the guy that came in during the playoffs?
They're saying either Luis Garcia or Robert Suarez are the kind of the...
Was Suarez the guy that pitched in Japan? Was he the guy that was like came from nowhere and had a great series against the Dodgers? I got to look it up. But I like that kid. I mean, he's somebody that wasn't drafted, went to Japan and played, and the Padres signed it for barely any money. And all of a sudden, from Japan, he went right to the playoffs against the Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm not sure which guy that was.
I mean, he looked like a guy that would work at a gas station. But the Padres will win 100 games. I feel the Padres have a great season. Their hitting's unbelievable. They're starting pitching. I don't think Musgrove is going to lose one start. I know he's on the DL right now. I don't think he'll be ready. He's ready.
Who's that? Musgrove?
Musgrove.
Yeah.
I think the Padres are the team to beat in the West. So, I mean, with closers, my suggestion to you is to wait till the 10th, 11th round and then start picking away. And, if you get Sewald, get Munoz. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you get Duran, get Lopez. To try to get if there's two guys that are bidding to be the closers, try to get the guy in Boston who pitched for Atlanta last year. What's his name?
Henley Jansen.
I mean, he's mid-30s, 36, 35.
Right. I would pick up John Schreiber there as the backup there because
John Schreiber. I mean,
the guy had crazy
Schreiber had a
numbers
good month. I mean,
yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, but that's the nature of the closing market. It's, when it comes to, and we'll talk about this every week during the season and using the waiver wire and working the waiver wire. The most important thing to look at on a daily basis on the waiver wire is relief pitching, because that is like a game of musical chairs in a lot of ways. And so you can gain a lot of value during the year just by dropping and picking up different relief pitchers as they gain and lose value throughout the season. Being able to identify, okay, this guy's had a couple bad relief appearances in a row. Let's see who the next in line is going to be and pick him up maybe a game or two ahead of time with hopes that, you get lucky and that guy gets the closer job. I think,
to answer your question, I'm waiting on relievers. I used to be a guy that liked to get the relievers early. Well, not too early, but you know what I mean. Spot 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round. I'm not doing that this year.
It's also not, I mean, and you alluded to it at the beginning of the show. There's not those 10 relievers who are guaranteed to get the closer's job and are just dominant in every peripheral category. There's not the old Craig Kimbrell from the Braves who would his average stat line was save, innings pitch, less than a hit allowed, at least 2 Ks per appearance, and with a 1.0 ERA. I mean, there's not that dominant. Edwin Diaz was close. Clase is as good as it gets, but he doesn't get elite strikeout numbers, even though he's very reliable. His cutter gets a lot of people to miss, kind of similar to Rivera in that same mold that Rivera was. I think Devin Williams is probably the best that gives you both right now.
He's the most dominant. I mean, guy is scary.
If you watch that changeup, it's insane. I don't see how anybody could hit it. But
I mean, I think he's the best reliever. I just don't know if Milwaukee's going to use him every time they have a save situation. I know that box leader, what's his name, who pitched there last year, now he's with the Cubs.
Boxberger. Now they have like their backups are Matt Bush, wasn't he drafted as a shortstop, the number one pick, and then had that falling out with the law? And then Peter Strzelecki, another guy who doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. So I think he's
Peter Scolari was Tom Hanks' co-star in Bosom Buddies. I don't know if you remember.
There you go. That's a different one.
Okay.
But there are certainly some you'd stay away from. I love Peter Fairbanks, but I'm only taking him at the very end of the draft just because it's Tampa Bay. But I love that guy.
I mean, Tampa Bay, these rules with Tampa Bay, the starters won't go over 5 innings.
Right.
And it's a different closer every other week. So
I'm going to stay away from the Cubs. They're giving Fulmer the first shot, but I think Boxberger could muck that up pretty good.
I like Brandon Hughes. That's the guy I like. And that's who I think's going to be closing it. That's the
he might be. He might be. I don't know. I mean,
that's the guy who has the best stuff. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just for closers, it's not the same world anymore. Just like running backs in the NFL, it's not the same world anymore. It's not you draft Terrell Davis and he's going to have 100 yards or two. Yeah. Those days are over. I mean, it's over.
I haven't heard anything about Liam Hendriks. Obviously, Liam Hendriks is battling non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yes.
We wish him nothing but the best in his recovery and his battle with that. I don't know if he's coming back at all this year or not. He's a guy you can draft, you can pick up after the draft, throw him in your IL spot, and the rare chance he comes back, because Kendall Graveman and Ronaldo Lopez don't inspire any fear in terms of their ability to hold on to that job.
I bet he could. Let's talk about injuries that happened this week in spring training, because there's been some horrible injuries, Casey Jackal. You mentioned your guy Diaz is gone. He's gone for the year.
Jose Altuve. Oh, my gosh.
Altuve got hit in the hand on his thumb,
weeks.
8 to 10, 12 weeks. His stock went down tremendously. He's being drafted now in the 9th, 10th round of redraft leagues because he's gone for 3 months.
But that speaks to how weak the second base market is. That he's still going in the first 100 picks, or between 90 and 110, when he's going to miss the first 2.5 months of the season.
I mean, that was a horrible, horrible thing with the fantasy owners with Altuve. The good news is, out of Philadelphia, Harper is not going to be on the 60-day DL, which means, to me, he'll be back. He'll be back. They said, he's only going to play about a third of the season. Ross the Boss says he'll play 2/3 of the season this year, Casey Scheinfeld. Yeah. And I say he's back by May 15th. How do you like that? I'm predicting that right now.
Harper will be back May 15th. Harper, May 15th. I hope so. I have him in a keeper league.
Bryce Harper, he'll be back. Another weird thing that happened yesterday, and I know Ron Washington's the third base coach and infield coach of Atlanta, who I've talked to and I know pretty well. Great guy. I mean, funny, great, articulate. He was a manager for Texas. I have stories about that. But long story short, he and Vaughn Grissom had a great bond. But Ron Washington, these guys, he's not a guy, he doesn't take any BS. So Vaughn Grissom, his personality, it's huge. He thinks he's the God's gift. They sent him down in the minors, Casey Scheinfeld. They thought he was the starting short. He was called the starting shortstop.
Orlando Arcia. I guess they wanted. Did they just do it to check his ego a little bit? Was that the goal?
I was going to ask you. I think he'll be back by May.
I think he will too, but this might be their way.
What do you do in the draft? Let's say he's available in our draft on Thursday. Would you draft him? What do you do?
I would. He's not going to be anybody I draft. He's not. Well, for people who don't know, we have a keeper league draft where you keep 6 players this Thursday. I don't draft him as an everyday player for my team, so he wouldn't be in the early parts of the draft at all for me. I would draft him near the end with the goal of, if he gets the spot, it's like a lottery ticket and he could develop into a keeper going forward. Because this guy, they say he has 2020 potential. He had flashes of brilliance last year, but his overall numbers at the end didn't portend kind of fantasy greatness. But I would look at him. Absolutely. I'd have to look at him if we're near the end. It's when I'm at the tail end of the draft, I'm looking for guys who have the potential of giving you significant innings and can contribute in multiple categories. And Vaughn Grissom counts in that mold.
Well, I agree. It was such an odd move for the Braves to put this guy in the minor leagues. And the only answer I have for you, unless you have some secret information that you're holding, you're not telling us, is that his ego got in the way, and Atlanta wanted to get him more grounded, bring him back to earth. He comes from a family that plays baseball,
Yeah.
and I think that's the reason they did it. I mean, they said he was doing great. As they moved him to shortstop. They said he was doing great. I mean, he played it in high school, but he was playing second for the Braves. But they said he looked great. And for some reason, they dropped it on to the minors, which that's the only answer I have. I don't know what else would your thoughts on.
Yeah. But like I look at Vaughn Grissom similar to honestly Adalberto Mondesi, right? Like this is a guy who, if he gets the chance and stay with Mondesi, it's health. With Grissom, it's just if he gets the opportunity and plays the way he was prospected, I guess, to play. Those are the guys who out of the blue can carry you in the second half of the season or carry you for a couple months at a time.
Atlanta has Michael Harris III, who is going in the first couple rounds in fantasy baseball, so you know how good he is. I mean, their team is loaded with talent. Olsen, they have a lot of great players on this team, and I thought Grissom was going to fit in perfectly, but I guess I was wrong.
Well, and I think he might. I mean, there is a good chance that this is just administration saying, "Look, man, you haven't earned your ego yet, right? You haven't."
That's what I wanted to say.
You've got Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, Austin Riley, Michael Harris. Like you've got a stacked lineup. Know your place. You're a number 7 hitter in on this team, an 8 hitter on this team, right? Like, I mean, they even went out and got Sean Murphy, the catcher. Like this lineup is scary good when you look at it that way. And Grissom.
And they have Lavin, they have Maddox, they have Smoltz. Oh wait, I'm wrong. That's
John Rocker. But they're how good is their rotation when you look at Fried and is it Morton? Charlie Morton is on this one? No.
Charlie Morton's a decent, but they have this guy named Spencer
Strider.
I mean, who's unhittable, who can't.
This kid
strike out people.
Is it Schuster? Who's the kid that's like just rocking right now for their 5th starter spot?
Atlanta has a lot of talent. The Mets and Atlanta are going to be fighting it out in that division the whole year. I still think the Mets.
Jared Schuster, that's it. I
still think the Mets have a better team, but I don't know if they'll play like a team in the first half. We'll see what happens. I could be wrong, but I think Atlanta should get out pretty quick. These guys have been playing with each other for a long time. But again, it should be a great season. I mean, the season starts what next week?
Yep,
next week.
Is opening day March 29th? I'm going to look.
Are you going to watch? So let's go back to the World Baseball Classic.
March 30th.
What's your prediction for the game tonight? I know we live in the U.S. I know you know.
Japan 4-2.
You think Japan wins?
I do. I think.
I agree. I
don't think Merrill Kelly can keep that.
Merrill Kelly can only pitch 4 innings. Remember, that's all he's eligible.
Right, but I think they're going to score 3 runs off Merrill Kelly. I think you're going to get an Ohtani home run, and that could knock in 2 or 3, and then at least one other manufactured run. And then what's going to happen is if the U.S. don't get runs in those first 4 innings, you're going to see Ohtani come in and pitch for 3 innings, and then that closer, that relief pitcher they bring in. I'm blanking on his name, but he's pretty dynamic also.
If you said his name, I would give you a star right now. I mean, they had one.
I think it's going to be great. I think last night, the ending to the Mexico-Japan game made it maybe the best WBC game I've ever seen.
That was unbelievable. And they had this pitcher that started the game, like his first 9 pitchers were all over 100 miles an hour. It was like,
I mean, and you look at I think I was always a little on the fence about Randy Arozarena. I thought of him as really talented, but whether or not I trusted him, he was amazing in the world for Mexico.
Oh, did you see he tried to fist bump Will Smith? Did you see that?
No.
They were on the same team together, a while back, I guess, and they're friendly. They're friends. I know they don't play in the same league. So Randy kind of put a fist bump like this,
Yeah.
and Will Smith just ignored it. He would not.
Yeah, that's a jerk move.
Again, it's WBC. It's a friendly type situation.
It really is an exhibit. It's
really
meant to
is.
grow the sport, right? It's meant to expose all these other countries to the greatness of baseball, and to do that, like, we're not talking a nasty rivalry between Mexico and the United States. We're not talking like.
No, I mean, these guys all play with each other. Major League Baseball, they make millions of dollars. Have fun.
Here's my hope. I'm hoping the U.S. is down 2 runs in the 7th or 8th inning. There's a couple outs, and there's a runner, 1 or 2 runners on. Shohei Ohtani is pitching, and Mike Trout comes up to the plate. I want to see that matchup. Like, that's my
2 teammates playing against each other.
Yep, the last meaningful game they'll play until next April. Right?
Why don't you tell the audience about the quote you sent me yesterday?
It was that Mike Trout is enjoying, playing in the World Baseball Classic, because for the next 162 games, he won't play in a meaningful one, but which is a sad state for the Angels. Although, who knows? I mean, they're not going to beat the Astros. I don't think they could beat the Mariners, but now that there's like all but 2 teams make the wild card, and they're getting better, I'm hoping they compete for a wild card, because I want Trout.
Dan is going to be healthy, hopefully, for the Angels for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the Angels. The problem with the Angels is their pitching. Their starting pitching is not up to par, except for Ohtani.
And Reed Detmers. Don't forget about Reed Detmers. I listed him as
he's a no-hitter. I watched it. I'm not disagreeing with you.
And his numbers this spring are insane. I mean, like
Reed is good, but again,
he's gained a few miles an hour on his fastball and his slider. Like, he's.
I just wish the owner of the Angels. They said he wanted to sell the team. Now he isn't. I mean, I wish he would sell the team and get somebody to spend money. Before we go, let's talk about college basketball. 16 teams left. I mean, this year has been tremendous, with upsets, with games, with players just playing their hearts out. I mean, it's been a great. I emphasize that college basketball, tournament. March Madness is really madness. What's your thoughts? I know you've been watching.
FDU has been my favorite team to watch play.
And their coach just got a new job today.
Yeah, Iona, right?
Yeah, he took Rick Pitino's spot. Rick Pitino went to St. John's.
I was really hoping that Iona, that FDU beat Florida Atlantic. Obviously, didn't happen.
Florida Atlantic did a dunk at the end. I guess it was kind of showing off. The coach of FDU got upset, and this is a guy that was using his mouth during. Said, we can beat Purdue. He was kind of talking smack too. So just relax. These guys, Florida Atlantic's never been in this situation before. Let the kids have fun, and it was just it wasn't built with spite. It was just enjoying the moment. So relax.
Yeah, I mean, these kids are playing in what is probably for 95% of them, the pinnacle of their careers, the biggest games they'll ever play in. So let them get emotional and play.
What city is Florida Atlantic? I know it's in Florida, Casey, but what city is it located in this school?
Florida Atlantic. Let me see.
I can't even tell you.
So let's look.
But we don't. It's a mystery. We don't know. It's near the Atlantic Ocean. That's all we know.
I still have my finals team available, but I lost Marquette. That was who I had him playing in the final. It's in Boca Raton. That's not a bad place to be.
It's in Boca Raton.
But so Xavier
is Boca Raton. Everybody's 92.
And that's including, and that's when you add in the numbers of all the college kids. If it wasn't for them, it'd be 96.
96
But so Xavier needs to keep winning for me to have a chance in our pool. But
I like Xavier, very small school in Cincinnati, Ohio, Catholic school. I've been to that school many times. I just can't believe they have such a great basketball team. It looks like a high school. So there's 16 teams left. I mean, we talked about Alabama. We talked about UCLA. Who do you think is going to win the whole thing?
Man, I'm a Terp fan, and watching Alabama on Saturday night, like that was really, really impressive basketball. So I think they still they're the number 1 overall seed. I know it's kind of like front running, but it's hard to pick against them right now. I think they've got to be the favorite.
They are the favorites. I'm not saying it's a great pick because they're the favorites and they're the best team on paper athletically. They're unbelievable. I mean, they have great athletes and great players on their team. My prediction is, and we'll go after this, I like the winner of the UCLA Gonzaga game. Whoever wins that game, I think is going to be the national champions. That's my prediction.
Right. No, thing. And I love Kansas. I like Kansas State.
I do too. I had them going kind of far. I like them too. I watched them play all year. I thought they had a great squad.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they get no respect. No one respects them. No one respects them. So again, it should be.
And they have, is it Keontae Johnson? They have that kid who collapsed on the court in Florida. Like they weren't sure if he was ever going to play again. Now he comes back with Kansas State on his last year of eligibility, and he just is playing out of his mind, and he's a great leader. So I always root for, at this point, I also root for the human interest stories, and Kansas State is a fun story. So
I also like Princeton. I want the Ivy League
to
go to the Final Four. I really do. I didn't go to the Ivy League. They don't let me on campus.
Who was the Princeton coach in the 90s? I'm blanking on his name. That was so famous for his
Italian guy. I can see his bald guy, towel.
It's Pete Carroll. That's who it was.
Yeah.
He recently passed away in the fall. But he ran the backdoor cut all the time. Like his team was that very old school kind of basketball that slowed the game down.
They beat UCLA. I mean, they beat some huge teams back then.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
UCLA won the national championship. The following year, they went to the tournament. Princeton beat them in the first round. Unbelievable. But, I mean, again, I'm rooting for the underdogs. You know, I predicted in the beginning there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff. And a 16 beat a 1 seed, which I loved.
Well, I think I watched that game. That was the worst coached game I've ever seen for a 1 seed. It was. You had that 7'3" dude who is huge and can dominate in the Big Ten.
Player of the year in college basketball. But keep going.
He can dominate in the Big Ten when it's a very half-court oriented offense, right? Where it's a lot of low post play because Michigan State crashes the boards, Maryland crashes the boards, Michigan isn't all that athletic. You know, you got Iowa, all of these kind of more half-court offenses. You go against FDU where their tallest guy is like 6'7" and a 3-point shooter.
11-inch difference in height. 11 inches, Casey.
And you try to guard him with somebody who's 7'3", 350 pounds. You get him off the court. You're a better team with a small lineup at that point because you can defend FDU better. And he left him on even when there was 3 minutes left for some reason. You know, it was bad coaching. It was just bad coaching.
I don't know what Purdue was doing. I didn't understand the whole philosophy of that game. I just thought they went in there thinking they'll win the game, and they didn't really prepare that much.
Right. I bet they thought they were going to be up like 17 at halftime.
I agree, and they did not take that seriously, and it shows you what happens next year. I know we don't talk about gambling, but if you want to gamble on the 2 games next year, this is what I'm going to do. Remind me of this.
I will.
I want to take all the underdogs, like all the seeds that are higher,
for $15 or $20,
and bet on the money line the money line. I don't want the points. I just want money line, which means you have to win the game.
And you get better odds, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think FTU was like, what was it, 40-1? It was something crazy.
It was crazy, yeah.
So, I mean, if you bet all the money line stuff, I mean, you would have won a lot of money this year.
Virginia, let's just say Virginia should send a giant bouquet of flowers to Purdue because they went from being the greatest upset of the last, few years and the only other team to lose as a 1 seed to suddenly not even being the biggest upset in this tournament and not the only team to ever lose as a 1 sead. So
Arizona started it off losing to Princeton. That was the first big one.
Well, Arizona and Virginia are notorious for they either win the championship or they lose in the first 2 rounds.
Remember this for next year, you and I. And Michigan State, I don't care how bad they do.
He's going to make the Sweet 16. Tom Izzo knows it.
Put them in, don't even argue. Don't even think about it.
We're going to change the month of March to Izzo.
The guy is a genius. I mean, I had Michigan State, I think, losing in the first round to SC.
Yep.
And they prove me wrong again. Again, I'm a loser. But Casey, great show today.
Always fun, Ross.
We'll see each other on Thursday.
We'll figure it out. Yep.
I think 4:00 Eastern, 1:00.
4:30, I think. I think it's 4:30, 1:30.
Yeah, there you go. That's Thursday with Dr. Dan Ratner. We'll talk baseball. We'll give you guys all
We'll
our
give you some more draft talk, spring training analysis. It'll be fun.
Hopefully, we're not talking about injuries either, because it was a bad couple of days with injuries.
Yep.
Altuve is a big one because I know people are hurting right now with Altuve. Trust me, especially the second base position being so shallow as it is now. It's getting worse. Okay, I'm Ross the Boss. Thanks for watching. That's Casey Vlad to the Bone Shine Fold. We'll see you guys next week.